on social media we see people go to their ex-girlfriend's home, taking their fridge and all that they bought for their girlfriend. Does it mean that it's illegal? They can actually,
well, yes,
you can actually sue.
yes. So it depends on the value of the property, right? That's why I stated that marriage protects your interest. Because if you marry, whatever you do within the marriage is more or less governed by the agreement between the parties and also some legal provisions. But for dating, or let's say cohabitation, etc., when the man makes a promise to give the woman property, that promise is not binding on him. I hope you got it.
Yeah.
So if a man promises his girlfriend property, it's not binding on him. If a man gives his girlfriend property and maybe they separate, it depends on the facts of the case. So how did you give the lady the property? Usually out of appreciation or courtship, you gave her the property. But sometimes the court can decide that they give you the property to manage for them. So a boyfriend can give you the lady the fridge, the shop, can open the shop for a lady, etc. But then it is a beneficial ownership. So he is the beneficial owner. He makes it clear that from the relationship, this property is for me. I'm just giving it to you to manage for me. And any interest you are getting, use it to manage yourself too. I hope you got me. So it becomes like an investment.
So he can actually take it back. That's what
he can actually take it back if he can show that he was the beneficial owner. That it wasn't given to it, he wasn't giving it to her as a full gift. Giving her all the rights or interest in the property. It was more or less, giving it to her as a particular sort of investment. Or probably a loan or something, like giving the property to her in her name, but he has the beneficial ownership. Right. So there are many cases like that. You give your house to the girlfriend and she goes to sell it. You can call the court. You can go to court, sue her, and tell them to return your property to you because you are the beneficial owner of the property. Maybe you gave it to her to manage on your behalf. It wasn't an outright gift. Yes.
Is it do you really need to make it legal, marriage? Do you really need to make it legal?
Well, that's a very important question. Right. But you see, the fact is clear that when you like someone and want to enter into a union with a person, you are not bound to make that thing legal. So obviously, if you want to enter into a union with someone of the opposite sex, there is nothing that compels you to make it legal. So why is it that people enter into marriages? There are other factors that govern it, especially when children come in, especially when they've been cohabiting for a long period of time. So you realize that even a marriage can be imposed on you by law. Under certain customs, if you've cohabited with someone for a long period of time, it can be deemed to be a traditional marriage. I hope you got it. So the fact of the law is that, well, more or less, you have to make sure that it is a voluntary affair you are entering into. And although you don't need to have a marriage formal or anything like that of that sort, when you want to protect your rights and interests under that relationship, it's best to marry. Okay. So there will be certain pressure on one person in the relationship to marry the other, right? Or to accept the proposal in order, because the people know their rights that accrue under the marriage. Now, these days, people tend to say that, oh, lawyer, it's not beneficial for men to marry because a woman can come and divorce you and take half of your property. But that's not true though, because there are laws that regulate these affairs. So if someone enters into the marriage to cheat you, I hope you get, if someone enters into the marriage to cheat you, it won't be regarded as a fair marriage. The court will look into the fact of the matter, especially upon divorce. Under the Matrimonial Causes Act, they'll look into the matter to determine whether or not the marriage was properly done and whether or not the right that you want was fairly accrued. So, well, parties are not compelled to enter into marriages, but you have to protect the relationship. So if you want a long binding relationship with someone of the opposite sex, if you want to protect your interests, especially dealing with property, right, you need to make sure that what you are doing is regulated by law.
We will get there. We will get to the property aspect of it. But before we get there, look. Can you just structure it into two lanes for me? Advantages of you marrying legally and the disadvantages of it. Can I get the advantages of it if you want to marry legally?
There are many advantages to marrying legally. And even from this onset, I'll look at it as a relationship between a husband and wife.
That's
so
a male and a female.
A male and female.
In our jurisdiction.
Yes.
Okay.
But even other jurisdictions now, they have different forms of marriages. But now we are looking at the relationship between a male and a female. Look at this example. You know that in Ghana, people can even marry to go outside as a couple, like to travel for traveling reasons.
Right.
There's a reason, or there is a notion behind that. When people marry under law, especially under the ordinance, they are considered as one. I hope you got it. That is a very, very important advantage. You are considered as one, a proper union. So even for certain issues dealing with citizenship, right, you'll be considered as a person who has the right to obtain the citizenship of another country just because you are married to the person. Now, another advantage of entering into a legal marriage is that you protect the affairs and the interests of those who come out of the marriage, the children, right? These people are innocent, and it doesn't matter the relationship you have with the other person, but most of the time, you wouldn't. Everyone prefers not to have a child out of wedlock, right? Nowadays, people go and adopt and have raised children on their own, but everyone usually prefers to have a child under a union. So it's more or less like even a biological.
It's more secure.
It's more secure. I hope you got it. You want to protect the interest of your offspring, because you, as the husband, you don't know what happens to you when you pass on. But then when you marry and you pass on, you know that your wife is legally obligated to take care of the children and the offspring. So in that sense, it's very important to understand that legally marrying, creates certain beneficial rights and interests.
Right.
Now, what are the disadvantages to it? The issue of joint property comes in, and the issue of joint interest comes in. And I think we'll go into that. Further, yes, because
we'll go into that.
There are two things. Love relationship now becomes a problem when money and property is involved. I hope you got it.
Absolutely.
Another disadvantage is, how do you navigate your personal affairs as a person, like a husband or a wife? Because now that you are married, even the way you navigate your personal affairs becomes an issue. Your reputation becomes an issue. So someone who is interested in having a free life, having as many relationships as possible, won't be interested in entering into a legal marriage. Because under a legal marriage, they can have an issue with you when you are committing adultery. They can actually go to court and say, hey, my husband is committing adultery. Pay me this compensation. Separate us. You get it? So if you're a man who isn't interested in being legally constrained from enjoying, number one, the fruits of your labor, your money, from enjoying, number two, your personal rights and liberties, then you wouldn't be, pushed to entering into a legal marriage.
Absolutely.
So that is one disadvantage. You are constrained in how you do certain things because you are married, right? So what about not marrying, right? I think indirectly we've touched on it, because obviously if you are not married, you are a free person. No one is obligated to marry.
Correct.
You can even go and like adopt a child, raise a child on your own. You can even have relations with the opposite sex, have a child, and decide that I want to raise the child on my own. I don't want to have any relationship with the other person. I don't want to enter into any formal marriage. I want to protect my interests as a person. I hope you got it. So more or less, these are the pros and cons of marriages and all that. But everyone wants to protect his interests. That's why most people want to enter into legal or legally binding social relationship. That's the marriage.
Yes.